Okay, good evening. Welcome everybody to the Thursday, March 13th, 2025 meeting of the Economic Development Commission. Per our agenda, one of our members is running a little bit behind, so we're going to move things around just slightly to accommodate his schedule. And Dale is with us from Rex. Would you like to go first to
Sure.
accommodate your schedule?
That would be great, and thank you for accommodating my schedule. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
So, there's a lot going on in this town between the country club, the POCD, the LOTSIP grant, which I'm assisting Tony with on the management side, just to help him with that. But the core reason I was involved was to work with the EDC, the main reason. And back from when Scott was the chair, you all wanted to focus on business retention as the primary thing, because you really can't do everything at once. And we've talked about this. Business retention fosters business growth. Good planning fosters business growth, attraction. So with the retention, everything you're doing involves retention. The Connecticut Main Street, because you'll be interacting with businesses. But part of retention, as I've presented some of my sort of guides, I guess we'll call them, there's like a stepping stone process to really doing a business retention program. Most people think of business retention as business visitation, which is part of it. But you just don't visit willy-nilly to businesses. If you hear of a business that has a problem, that's a business you want to visit, obviously. But really you need to sort of understand who you have first and how they impact the town's economy. So if you're working with an industry, construction always comes to mind. You have a big construction companies. They're touching many different industries in your town. Besides the employment factor, they're buying stuff, equipment, supplies. They have transportation issues, which affects us, garages. It doesn't sound exciting, but it's an area of your economy that every town has, and they have needs. So I'm just giving you an example of how you would think about visitation. You probably have different industries, we'll call them clusters, that are prominent in town. Ones you can kind of guess. Healthcare would be one, because you have assisted living and a lot of doctors and stuff. Every town has those. I always joke that I'm almost 69 and I have 9 doctors and I'm healthy, God bless, God willing. And if you multiply that by the Woodbridge population, you could figure that the medical industries are important. So visiting some sort of nursing care or senior care facility would be somebody you want to visit. When you do business visitations, you don't just say, "Hey, Steve, how you doing? What do you do here?" Right. You're going in there to learn about their needs and learn about their business. And so what I would like to see the commission do is kind of step back and build kind of a structure of a business retention plan. And Cliff, I'm going to outline it in writing to you, okay? The stepping stones. I know I kind of threw it out there early on, but there were so many you were all new and there were so many things going on. Hello, sir.
Hey, Dale.
Long time no see.
Guess I just
And
saw your daughter.
And so, first and foremost, you have to have a good database of businesses. Who's in town? You kind of know a lot of it, but I'm talking about finding out things you don't know. You have some life science businesses, for example, in some of the office buildings. And who are they? What are their needs? That's an industry you want to try and visit. You cannot do a lot of visits. It's not something you can do one a week or something like that, because who's going to do these visits? You guys are. Sure. Mika will go, but you, at least one or two of you should go. What I would recommend after I give you something to look at in writing is to develop a subcommittee that could work with me on that very thing. But getting a database of businesses is important. At the end of Bradley Road, as you cross into that industrial area, there's a ton of businesses in there. It's kind of a mishmash, but there's some manufacturing. That's the potential for growth. And so that would be a target to me, to focus on. Find somebody get used to doing it, going in. In another town I worked in, they're totally into this. And they said, "Well, where do we go first?" I said, "Start with some low-hanging fruit and go to somebody you know." Like Jamie Scott, I know. I happen to know him. I'm sure you know him too. he would have you come in and just sit down and talk to him, and just get some practice on how to you know, how to find out information. You don't ask them questions, you just have a conversation. So this is what I'm talking about, having sort of first a database and then a strategy. I think one a month is perfectly fine. Go at first where you're comfortable, so you get used to going in. Anytime you go visit a business, you think you're gonna hear certain things. Oh, we have a problem with workforce. Everybody has a problem with workforce. But you're gonna end up finding out, like I did in another town, oh, we really like to acquire that property right next to us. Could you help us find out who owns it? Well, we wouldn't have known that. In the same business, this was in Brantford. It was Blakesley. They make these giant concrete forms, huge.
Yeah.
They had a problem because their cranes couldn't turn the big pieces because 2 UI poles were in the way. Could you help us have UI underground, the wires there? And they're working on it. You know, it'll take forever with UI, but they're gonna work on that issue. So when you go, you may think, oh, well, you kind of know everything about them, but you're gonna learn things you didn't know. Once you get used to doing that, you want to go where you don't know them. I try to tell my mayors and first selectmen, now that you've done the first 2, now go somewhere where you might know somebody who works there. Obviously, Mika would play a big role introducing himself as chief elected official. Go somewhere where you don't know them well. What happens there is you find out there's work to do. There's stuff they're not happy with. You'll find out their needs. But that's what you're doing with retention. You're basically keeping them there by showing them that you're on it. There's some things are out of your control. Yes.
So, so how do you handle objections, perhaps something that you just don't have the ability to help with?
Well, do you have an objection? Let's say they're mad about zoning?
Your taxes are high.
Oh, right. Well, you have to tell, remember I was talking about telling a story?
Can't find labor.
You have to have your elevator, you know, first empathy. First thing is empathy. You're right, we do have one of the highest, even after reval, everybody's gonna adjust, you're still gonna be up there, right? You may go down to 29, but everybody else who was 46 is down around there too. So I think what you have to do is be truthful and show empathy and tell them what you are doing to try to turn that around. You can't change the facts otherwise. If you tell them you say, yeah, you're right, but I wanted to tell you, and it's sort of based on the kind of business it is. Like if it's a construction business, you want to focus on all the development that's going to come out of the LoCIP investments and the POCD. So it kind of is like you want to pump them up, but first you got to show them empathy. You can't fix that overnight. You got to, and you definitely got to let them know that they're right. You're right.
And how about leaving something with them once you've made that introductory meeting, and perhaps, I keep thinking about a website, the X's and the O's of us getting out there. So I'm Steve Francis. I'm with the Economic Development Commission, and they don't know me from Adam. And so, how do they recognize me as being a member of the town government? It's just
like a leap behind, a bio leap behind.
or
Or
just
this is what we plan to do. Or this,
I think that you can, if you had some sort of some of my EDCs, I have them print cards, for example. It doesn't say Steve's name on it, but it says that Woodbridge EDC with all the information about Woodbridge, and you could maybe write your name in.
Yeah.
It costs nothing to print business cards. It's silly to print 1,000 of your cards, but have them. I've done that where my commissioner's gone out and visited somebody, and they just hand write their name on it, Steve, and your phone number. But I think you just want to give them tell them all the stuff you're doing, and invite them to come to a meeting, and invite them to be part of something.
all right.
They'll probably say no, but they might say yes.
Yeah.
right. And they'd be great. They'd be happy to be invited.
Oh, people want to. They want to be involved. Businesses want to be involved because they're paying probably, if they're a local business, they're probably paying their house property taxes, their business property taxes, their business personal taxes, and probably other taxes I'm not thinking of. right? And so, you know, so they're like, they kind of have a vested interest, but I think you have to be prepared with a bit of a pep talk about the things you're working on to work towards, maybe talk about timelines. I think leaving an impression more than a card, I guess is.
But, yeah, you had mentioned a card, but how about a one-page leave behind?
You
Okay,
could.
bullet point, this is what we're doing, that's what we talk to when we elaborate when we're there,
Yeah,
but that's,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is, when you go visit businesses, you're gonna get a variety of people that have time for you and don't have time for you. Not everybody's gonna be terribly welcoming. They'll let you in, but they're gonna say, you got this, I only got a half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to have a leave behind that gives them something to respond to. So I've seen I've seen different things that people have left, like a little brochure with a fill-in-the-blank survey.
Mhm.
Get this back, and you know, and somebody will follow up with you. The biggest thing of all is to follow up immediately. So when Blakesley said we needed the property that they wanted to acquire in Branford was actually in North Branford. So I had to have Perry contact Rory in North Branford to try to find out who the owner, because the owner of that property, basically it was abandoned. They had like a little building on it, and they're working on it. So they immediately got back to Blakesley like 2 days later. So it's the follow-up. If you go in there and listen and you're empathetic and you tell them all this stuff and they tell you whatever they tell you they're not happy with, because you're gonna get some of that everywhere. If you don't follow up, then you wasted your time. The other thing is, you know, staff time on this. If you get into a regular program, I'm just kind of spitballing. When you get into a regular program of business visitation, somebody's gotta take notes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you have a visit with let's say a manufacturer, you're probably gonna go in, and I'll give you this in writing. You're gonna go in and sit down at a table, they're gonna tell you, you know, tell you about their business, you know, you're gonna have a conversation, and then they're gonna give you a tour. Well, this could last an hour, and there's a lot of nuance when people talk about what they need. What you thought was important. So having notes right away, somebody's gotta take the notes. Even if, and that's, you know, for future EDC members and stuff to have a file of that. Goldman and York wants to know what you found, because they're really more, you know, on a more permanent basis. But it's documentation as well. So volunteers have some, you know, you have some play in this. Mika has to go. When Mika first came in, he literally was in office like 2 weeks. I saw a thing about a bioscience company's ribbon cutting. I think you remember this, right? He had no idea that they were there. You can't know everything. So he went to it. It was incredible. He said it was incredible, all the stuff they're doing. Who knew? So somebody like Jamie, or somebody of that kind of business that does more traditional manufacturing, the other thing is they love showing you what they do. If you get into manufacturing, every town has manufacturers. Going around with them and having them show you their products and asking like good questions. How do you export? Where do your employees come from? They're gonna talk about workforce needs, you know. That may lead to some other partnership. They're probably gonna talk about not having enough skilled trades. They're probably gonna talk about not having enough engineers. Probably gonna talk about not having enough, if they're in construction, you know, plumbers, electricians, and all that stuff. That gives you the opportunity then to go back to your high school and come up, and I can help you with some programs that are great programs that have been developed through the high school to promote these things. Another one is, I know I'm kind of rattling on here.
No, you're good.
No, the other one is culinary. You know, a big part of your POCD success with Connecticut Main Street is making sure your restaurants, and if you have Airbnbs or anything in that industry, related industry, even the small little diners and you know, coffee shops and stuff, are doing well. They have a terrible time finding people to work in restaurants. I know of towns where restaurants are only open Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays because they can't find enough dishwashers, or they can't get a hostess. So if you really think you're gonna, as you say, how long does it take for a private investment to come in, and it's 3 or 4 or 5 years, you should probably develop some other partnerships outside of what you're doing. So in the case of Clinton, just, they have that problem downtown. They want more restaurants, because they have Clinton Crossing, just a half mile away from downtown. But they can't get restaurants, because the restaurants can't keep their staff. What do? They developed a culinary program with Morgan High School. And, you know, I can show you how they did it. I mean,
That's definitely something we could do. We have a very good culinary program in Amity.
You do?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you have a culinary program going, or you have any kind of these programs, how do the businesses know about it? You're telling them. So your visitation is to learn and to share, and then follow up. I cannot emphasize how important it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Even if you can't help them, follow up. Or Mika calls them, because you're gonna put work on Mika's desk, 100% sure of that. You're gonna hear about somebody they're not happy with in government, you know, could be the building department, zoning. Half the time, it's really not, it's not the staff's fault, it could be the business's fault, but you still have to follow up a little bit.
Sure.
Great.
Because, you know, if it's just simply a procedural thing that they misunderstood. So there's a lot to learn and follow up with. It's not just, hey, Steve, how are you? That's how I started. And I have some guides on how to do all this.
Okay.
I think, Cliff, the main thing is to commit to it by having a subcommittee to work just on that, and then I would work with that subcommittee to get going.
How big of a consideration is confidentiality of what you're told, you know, both competitively?
You could ask them when you're there.
Mhm.
Most of the stuff that you're gonna learn is not trade secrets. They're probably not gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you, like Blakesley, I can't get my crane in, could you help me with that? UI's got a pole in the way, can you help me with that? Or I don't have enough engineers for doing drawings. How can you help me with that? But they're not gonna give you too much information. But if you sense it, you feel it, you could just ask them. You know, because if they want your help, they're not gonna tell you something that you can't disclose
Yeah.
to somebody.
Okay, all right.
Dale, just a couple points on that. Steve and I had a brief conversation, and when we're getting, I don't want to get too far ahead on the agenda, but when we join up, if you will, with 2030 for the open house for the whole connectivity project,
Right.
and we want to get the businesses, any of the stakeholders involved with that. Is that kind of like a first touch? Can we get out there with, let's say, a flyer or an invitation, if you will, to that, stop into X, Y, or Z business along that area as a, you know, introduce yourself, say, I'm from the EDC, we just want to provide this information for you. Here's my phone number, should you have any questions, I'd love to come back and talk to you another time. In and out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's different approaches with different types of businesses. Like, if you're talking about a bigger company, like, let's say Jamie's company, I don't even know how many, he probably has 10 or 20 employees or something like that. But if you're doing small businesses, it's a different approach. It's a walk-in. You still want to kind of find out what's going on, you know what's making them happy or not happy, and at the same time, you want to start with the good news. There's an event. So with small businesses, it's really more improvised, but it's the same concept. You're still, you know, getting to know them. But that is a very good idea, and you're going to have lots of those. You got the connectivity. There'll probably be more than one. You know, because we're talking the end of April with SLR on the plans.
That was a question I had for you. I wasn't sure where you.
Well, we're waiting for the. I can't report on the drainage thing because I don't want it in the public. Because everybody's talking to each other about the drainage. They're doing so. There's going to be a public meeting to unveil what the lighting. We talked about the lighting and the benches look like, and other stuff. The design, the sidewalks, maybe some drawings and some elevations they're going to have. But before they do that, there's a drainage study going on that could impact the cost of the project and therefore the scope of the project. So right now, the town engineer is talking to SLR about the results of what they're finding and stuff they still need to learn. I don't have any answers yet. But that could impact, to answer your question, it could impact the final scope that's presented at the public meeting. So You don't wanna go too fast with this public meeting. We're talking the end of April, but, you know, it's gonna be a little squishy. So I literally talked to your town engineer yesterday about this, so I have to see what happens.
When is the,
Push it to May, just for publicizing.
My opinion is, wait as long as you need to wait,
Yeah.
not rush it, just because we said April. You have plenty of time to spend the money. There's no big limit on, you know, when you have to spend, it's like $7 million or something like that. There's no rush. And the other thing is, you know, when you think about a project like Lots with, that has, I'm guessing there's prevailing wages required because it's state money. You gotta be careful when you bid the project. So if you're gonna bid it in July, after having meetings in May, you're gonna get high prices. All contractors bid high in the summer because they're doing school projects, they're doing things that have to be done by September or October. So if you don't bid it like by now, you might as well just wait well into the fall to bid it. Because now you're gonna get competitive pricing.
all right. So,
Because schools dominate, even though funding is way up in the air right now, who knows what's gonna happen. Schools dominate the whole construction, so they'll bid on it, but they're only gonna bid high numbers.
so an estimated start date hasn't yet been established?
No. And there's no requirement under the lots of grant that you have to finish it by May of '26 or something like that. You have time. So if I'm looking at it, just pragmatically, you probably should bid this project in like October, November, or something like that, when they're hungry to bid.
Of this year?
Yeah, of this year, correct. That's just advice, that's, you know.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, there's no rush to do it.
And I'm just concerned about that we get the word out and that we plan appropriately for letting businesses know, letting residents know, so that's the
Yeah.
newsletter goes out.
A lot, yeah, a lot will be determined by next week when I talk to all get back to both the town engineer, who definitely gave me a different perspective than SLR, and then SLR and how that impacts the budget, if it impacts the budget at all.
Okay.
If it was a serious drainage problem, you need to go off-site, put pipe in, you have to get easements, you need more surveying, now you're delaying things quite a while, and you could impact the budget a lot. If it's an O&M thing, a operation and management thing, you've got to clean the pipes, clean the catch basins. The other factor here is a lot of this is in a DOT right away. What's the town's responsibility? Having the state design something that's got to be bid. So let me find out more, but I think you should be flexible about that.
Okay.
Just one more question, sorry,
Yeah.
Cliff. Do we have information, or would you recommend that we put information onto the town website that would allow for people to kind of have an idea as to what might develop with this, lots of grant?
Oh, yeah,
Project.
once we straighten out this drainage thing, then they're gonna go full out effort to put together some drawings that they're gonna use at the public meeting, and they should be posted on the town site.
There should be.
Absolutely.
Did you go onto the town website?
Every so often. Is there information there already?
No, what I was gonna say is that we do have something for the master plan, the CCW master plan. You go on there, so there's sort of a timeline and some information. So I can envision something like that also for this project as well. And there's also for the POCD. We have similar, you click on a page and
Okay.
there's information pertaining.
Now, does anybody post on social media that that's available on the town website?
We, in our newsletter we do, and I believe in the e-news, we also encourage people to go to our town website, sign up for the e-news blast so that they get updates on
And
this
how often
information.
does the e-news go out?
I'm gonna say like once or twice a week. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sorry, not.
Oh, that's like, well, that's pretty good. A month.
And then our newsletter is.
Well, as things get more active, that'll probably increase, because there'll
But
be
with the
more to tell
e-news,
them.
people have to register and sign up for that.
Right.
So we try to encourage that as well, people to sign up to receive the information.
The other option you have is to develop by the moment social media presence.
We do have that as well.
Yeah, and so somebody's got to be responsible for doing it. Because if you have old stuff on there, people lose interest, they won't check it. The social media will trigger them to look also. Like one thing positive to report, for more information, go to the website. And you can set it up that they can't comment, that it's like informational, because then you'll get every person that has
Right.
a complaint
Mhm.
will be complaining. Instagram.
Complaints go to Cliff.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Or
so
Scott.
to wrap up on the visitation,
That's it.
it needs to be
That's the website, right?
nailed down into some
CC
kind of a
that's right
structure
up top.
for the EDC to work on, so that they can work on it separately in this report back.
Okay, sounds good. And the last thing, you want to plug your book?
Oh,
I
did
get it.
you did get
I
it?
did. I started
Well,
reading it.
I wrote a book. I've been working on it a while. Just say that I started it during COVID. It's called How to Get the Job Done. That's got a bold cover, right? And I had to learn all about writing a book. I've written lots of articles, blogs, articles, all kinds of stuff. I've written a workbook for grants. I've done lots of teaching, but I've never wrote a book. So after I wrote it, I learned about my ego needs to, be under control, because I took it to a copy editor, and she just ripped it. But it was really great. I pushed back on a couple things. My daughter is still giving me a hard time about some of the words that I wanted her to leave in. The copy editor wanted to change. I said, if I change it too much, it doesn't sound like me. It's got to. That's who I am. So we finished it, and it's on Amazon and Kindle. You can get it a hard copy or on Kindle. How to Get the Job Done. It's about building capacity. I could have written about many topics, retention, any of the topics, brownfields. But Scott's sick of hearing me talk about brownfields right now. But I wrote it basically about how to build a good economic development organization, how to manage your time, how to manage projects. I do case studies, how I solve certain difficult problems. And I still wasn't happy with it at the end. After I did it, I said, well, who's going to care about this? And then I went, just a personal tale, in the fall of 24, a friend of mine, Margie Lipschitz, anybody know her? Her husband is a pretty well-known photographer, Harold Shapiro. He does lots of photography for healthcare places. Anyway, she was doing something on personal legacy. She was having like a forum online, some talking forum, and that really got me interested. And to make a long story short, I attended. It was like 2 hours on a Sunday night. There was 18 people and only 3 men, all women, all like 50 to 70, And it was all about how you view yourself, your legacy, and your professional legacy, and I guess your personal legacy. My wife thought I was really egotistical to do this, and I said, "You're right. I am egotistical because I care about what I do." So anyway, after that, I was able to finish the book. So I have a personal chapter at the end on like the 4 parts of building your personal legacy. So if you want to read it, the good news for anybody who buys the book is it's really short. 62 pages.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
for sure. Yeah.
Dale, thank you.
Is it in big print?
Huh?
Is it in big print?
Well, good point.
Lots
Then
of
it'll be
pictures.
like, it'll be 82 pages. But
Can I,
Yeah.
a couple things, the project that's going on down in the village, is there a commission or a department within the town that's managing, overseeing that activity?
The 2030 task, or the connectivity project you talking about?
Are you talking about the housing project?
No, the rejiggering of the sidewalks and.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Just
2030
2030.
task force.
Okay, they're doing that. Now, there seems to be,
Through the grant, they're
Yeah.
getting grant funding.
That's the grant I'm managing, yeah.
so across, and I think I'm saying this as a kind of maybe something we get to Mika. Across the town, there seems to be the need for a bit more communication on various things that are going on. So maybe if we
In
can.
general.
In general.
This is
Yeah,
where all
so-
the storytelling, comes into play.
Yeah,
Well, there's a
so
lot of different projects right now.
projects, all kinds of stuff, information that the town needs to better inform themselves of things going on.
Yeah.
So maybe from us, another ping Tamika saying, hey, we gotta get somebody on board to do communication for the town
It's
a little bit
interesting
better.
that you say that, because I've been
Thank you,
talking to Dale about this, he's helping Tony Genovese.
Thanks, Dale.
Hi, Dale.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. I'll talk to you. Dale's working with Tony Genovese is the town staff person who has been on with the 23rd. We're taking minutes, attending, following up, that's our work. So, he's asked Dale to come on board to help him manage that project. So one thing is that with this planned open house, which they had thought originally, I don't know if you attended their last meeting, but Paul DiStefano had said he was hoping for that open house to take place in April, toward the end of April. So I had reached out to Dale and said, can I get some information of what to, like we have for the CCW open house and the POCW, just a little information about what will be learned at that open house. And the other part too to that is, who will attend? Are we having residents and businesses attend? And so there's some questions that we need to, I think, understand and work out in order to execute the open house. So I believe Dale is helping to formulate that. I prompted him with some questions, and then that's why even today, like I do put together the newsletter. I put some of the news flashes on the homepage based on information I receive. I kind of rework it a little bit. But so we do need to start, to Steve's point, is having something on the website that people can go to. So I agree, especially with that project. I think it's got to kind of simplify it, let people know what they're going to expect at the open house. And that's why I'm saying if we're waiting to the end of April and we don't have information yet, I'm a little worried about it being included in my newsletter because my deadline is the end of next week.
Oh.
For production, to get it to mailboxes on the 1st of April.
Yeah.
So we're waiting to the last week of April, we might as well wait to May. And also I think, in my first meeting here, is that I think there needs to be some thought about how we're going to reach businesses. If we in fact want them to attend that first open house, how do we get that word out to them? So I don't have the answers, but I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It's okay, just make a comment that, just maybe help flow up another message that he's probably getting from others, that communication needs to be a focus as well. Another thing, kind of alluding to what you were getting at, good segue at the end there, how do we get to what Dale was talking about today? How do we start taking action? Because we don't need to just jump outside and start talking to people. There's some groundwork we can do now in terms of understanding all the businesses that are in town, maybe gathering contact information for them, breaking them out by their segments, what types of businesses, what industries they support, getting that done first, and then actually starting to put together the approach of how to go start interacting with them. I'm itching to actually get out there. We spend time in here, but we're yet to get moving.
And we did have that conversation in the past about how to best come up with that list of businesses. When this is going back the beginning of January or so, the town has a listing of your top 5 employers. It's so out of date. I mean, the one example that they gave was the number 4 or 5 employer was down off on Lunar Drive was Bailey Moore was a accounting firm. Years ago, they had 30, 40 employees. Now they're down to 12. But it still shows on this outdated information that they're one of the top employers. Of course, if you look at any of Coachman's, the Willows or whatever, Autumn, something it's called now, Charter, any of those have to be up there with the sheer number of residents that they have. So they're going to have enough staff to correlate to that. But we've got to be able to somehow go in and find a list somewhere, right? So, and that's what we had spoken about before, and you had said, Tony, I think that between the assessor's office and maybe the tax office, there would be some way to generate one of these lists yet.
I would hope the tax
You
office
would-
has a
you
list
would think
of
so.
all of the businesses that are in town, right?
And then maybe we can look at that, get a listing, general listing, and then kind of group it ourselves. Is that something that is potentially doable, would you think?
Well, we just recently spoke this week about trying to get some assistance with helping out, build out our business list.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we have a list that Marcia had given Scott Prudhomme some time ago, based on, I have to dig it up because now that was almost a year ago, I want to say, that we were starting to look at this. And I think it was based on their revenue. I'm not sure if it was on sector or not. I'd have to pull that again. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Right now, we have the e-news blast. There's some businesses on there, but they're people's personal emails, not necessarily business emails. But I am working on, for the preliminary budget mailing, I do mail businesses. So I just got a list from the assessor that what I do with it is I just clean it up and put it into labels for that mailing. So maybe as a start, we could look at that list, maybe mail to the businesses, letting everyone know, because we could probably look at it by kind of take household businesses out of the equation, like we know where the parameters are of the area where there's the main businesses versus, people who have home businesses, right? So maybe do a mailing to them to let them know something like this connectivity project open house is coming on board, or let them know that, to hop onto our list. The problem I think with that is that we don't know the person who we're connecting to. Are we getting to the right? Is that mail getting to the right person?
Sure.
Sometimes had to do projects where I've really had to make phone calls. Like, who is the right person at Autumn Lakes that I need to speak to about that? So it might even mean that we have to make those types of efforts. Not necessarily, of course, not you'll work, but maybe with some assistance here in town, we could do some of that, right? I mean,
Sure.
If we can get a list of all the businesses in town, I'll volunteer myself. I'm happy to call and find out, or look online who
the problem is there's no
Point of
phone
contact
numbers,
is.
right? You gotta Google them, sort of, look up their phone numbers and
Sure.
do those types of things. So,
But let's ping the assessor's office again, or whoever. Say, get us the list of businesses.
Yeah.
Start
Yeah.
there. Gotta start somewhere.
Cliff, maybe I missed this, I'm sorry I was late, guys. What's the thinking of the open house from 2030? Is it, an infrastructure open house? Is it a placemaking open house? Because I think that might help inform you of the audience that you're trying to deal with. Or is it sort of a combination of both leading into placemaking? But how has that been organized? Because I could see that sort of informs, what we're trying to say and accomplish from the open house. Retention of a business may be to retain the business, but only within the placemaking sort of, you want to retain the business, but where is it appropriate? And that has to do with what the infrastructure is trying to accomplish. If it is trying to accomplish something, what is it trying to accomplish and how do we put that all together? And I'm just wondering what the thought was on the open house about
was-
placemaking versus infrastructure.
I think it's being planned by the 2030 task force.
It is, and it was, I printed out the minutes of that meeting from January 21st, when it was first discussed, and you mentioned Paul DiStefano. He was thinking at that time that they were looking into March, which obviously we're going to be well beyond. But there was no definite say, we're going to be focused on X versus Y. So I think that, we're going to throw it back to them, and then, we can kind of ping pong it and come up with some type of a plan to address whatever focus they want to focus this particular portion of the open house on, and this whole, where we are on the project. Because as, Steve and I were talking briefly and said, hey, the businesses that are gonna be affected. So let's just say, when they start to dig up sidewalks or whatever the case is along Amity Road, the nursing home, the hardware store, the restaurants on the upside, Tide Cleaners, you know, what is gonna be the impact on them? Are they gonna have accessibility issues? Are they gonna have other issues such as that? And if they're not aware well in advance that this project is gonna begin, and hey, by the way, we're gonna be knocking on your door because we're gonna dig up the sidewalk in front. If they don't know, to your point, Chatty, the communication has to be there,
Yeah.
well in advance.
Yep, and full. Yeah.
So, if we wanna go back to the agenda, we skipped around, Scott, before you came in, only because of Dale's, time commitment that he had. So we're gonna, go back to agenda item number 2, which is, approval of the minutes from January 9th, and then the special meeting of February 13th, which was the ribbon cutting at Crunch on Lucy Street.
Point of order, do we have to do them individually, or are we doing this?
I think we could do them as a group.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay, I so move.
Second.
Discussion there? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
And Scott seconded, or did you?
Aye.
Steve did.
Steve seconded, okay.
Beat me.
Moving on to the Crunch ribbon cutting and the takeaways. Thanks to Tony for setting the grand opening up with Liam and his family. It was nice to see Mika and so many members of EDC there to help celebrate this business's grand opening. I'm sure we'll all join in wishing them nothing but success, to Liam and his family. And also, for the record, to thank Tony's husband Ed for being the photographer on the day.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? It was a
No, it was very nice. It was a
very nice
event.
day.
It was good,
And
too.
they were happy. They were happy that we were able to do it. Okay.
Could I add something?
Sure.
So from that, you may have read, whoever gets the newsletter or reads it, is that we did put a post in the newsletter about the ribbon cutting. And I did follow up with Liam, because I sent him pictures as well. I think I copied everybody on the link to the pictures of the ribbon cutting. And he did tell me that he did get some customers in based on that little article.
That's great.
So it was really good news,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to share that with everybody,
Yeah.
because that's really what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Next, looking at the update on the POCD. I had an opportunity to meet with Justin LaFountain, Robert Collins from SLR. He's kind of spearheading the work on the POCD, and Chris Sullivan. We're just going over some of the clarification of the points that we had made in our feedback. More so, they were looking, some of the notes that were there and included in what we were given. We're going back as far as 2005 regarding business versus village district versus, any number of names that area has been given over time. And the goals, some of those goals actually have been met, or with the work that's going to be done in the near future will have been met. So we can only just try to exceed on that. They're going to have another community workshop, which is going to be scheduled. And I'd have to get back to you on the date on that, unless you remember what it was.
It was, I know, I spoke with Chris Sullivan today, because again, I'd like to put a news flash on our website, get an e-news blast out, but she doesn't know as of yet. She hopes to have some date, they were hoping for March, but she'll know better by Monday and have more information at that point in time.
And I also wanted to thank everybody for their feedback that you sent, and kind of put it all together, sent them. A lot of points that were made were kind of outside of what they were looking for from EDC perspective, but I sent it along anyways, because it could have been construed from sustainability or any of the other factors that they were looking at, conservation and so forth. I did make a good mention in that meeting of point that you had made, Chatty, about transit and trying to open up or increase the flow of public transit and public opportunity to move around within these spaces. So that's something that I think we'll see included in the next presentation. I'm hoping. You know, they only take what we give them. It's not a guarantee that it's going to make it into the final document, because all this feedback goes back to town planning and zoning, and then they kind of circle back again. So it's an interesting process, to say the least. Anything else on that? Business retention, we spoke about with Dale. The Amity Chamber, as we've spoken about before, the Orange Chamber of Commerce is now going to rebrand itself. There was just an email that came out with that from Barry Cohen, who's was or is the executive director of Orange Chamber. Will be the executive director of the Amity Chamber. The next month or so, they're really going to make a push. Scott Prudhomme has recently been named a board of director for their committee. What the Amity Chamber is looking for is he wanted a process to be in place that he spoke to Tony about, and Mika had some input about how, when a new business comes to town, or a business that he meaning Barry Cohen and the Chamber of Commerce, sees an opportunity for them to speak with and potentially have them join the Chamber of Commerce. You know, what is going to be the process in place that they're going to be fed this information? So with that, if a business, when they open, if they desire to have a grand opening event, Barry would reach out to them, say, hey, I'm with the Amity Chamber of Commerce, love to help you, with your grand opening. He's big on publicity. He makes a big push through their e-newsletter and also email blast. I think you have to sign up with him, but I don't know if you all get it, but I've been signed up and get his emails about different things that he's doing out in Orange. But his plan is to really reach out to Woodbridge and then ultimately out to Bethany as well.
So, Cliff, the objective of that is to have a group that covers all three towns?
Correct. So I think from their standpoint, and something that was mentioned in something that I was reading, was that a Chamber of Commerce that is focused just on one town is almost something that's non-existent anymore, that they're all going regionally. So you look at the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce, of course, we have our membership in that for the town, but they're reaching out all over the place. And that's how they're going to be able to keep bringing in members, generating revenue, and then ultimately help them publicize these folks. If he's, constricted to Orange alone, granted, they've got Route 1 where there's constant turnover of businesses, but whether or not it's good for a Chamber of Commerce or not, I don't know. I haven't done too much research into the backside of a chamber, but I think it can only be beneficial to us, working alongside them, and he can take a little bit of the work of these grand openings off of the staff here in Town Hall. But he also said that should a business he approaches not want to join the chamber, okay, no problem. He said he would still attend their grand opening, just kind of be in the background, still kind of promote it, but not as he would have should it have been somebody who wanted to join the Chamber of Commerce. But he's willing to work with anybody.
And Scott is our representative for the town there? Is that how the position works?
I believe he is on their board as a business owner within now the Orange Chamber. I think he's got 2 or 3 of his businesses out there, but they're looking at folks from all different backgrounds to be on their board of directors. And Barry said that he would be happy to join us in the future once the official rebranding as the Amity Chamber has kicked off, and he come in and speak to us.
That'd be great.
Should we be interested?
And I did share everyone's emails, so I hope you all got that
I got it.
communication as well.
And where's their office space? Is it in Trumbull or Shelton?
The Amity Chamber?
No, well, yeah, the Orange Chamber.
It's, I think it's on the Post Road.
Is it on the Post Road? Okay.
But he does work very well, and in and out of Town Hall in Orange, because that's where he's getting a lot of
Yeah.
his current information.
Yeah.
But that was my understanding.
It's in Orange.
You can look it up.
I was just wondering where, like, they may have offices that we can avail ourselves of.
Moving on, unless anyone has any more questions on that. Item 7, we are just going to quickly discuss the CT Main Street, the assessment program, and the workshop that they had. They had a workshop going back on the 26th, I think it was, where they were talking about advancing your downtown, identifying priorities and next steps. This was presented through SCROG. Basically, they were giving you a self-guided Main Street readiness assessment, very easy. And this was kind of a lead-in for us, at least in Woodbridge, to a meeting that is going to take place on Tuesday, the 25th. And that will be with Mika, myself, Chris Dickerson from 2030. We have some community business owners are going to be in. This is very, very preliminary meeting. Just to kind of give a further overview of what it is that CT Main Street does. The program that they laid out in the presentation was, to me, very informative, and I did get it, the PowerPoint, so I'm going to send it out to everybody probably tomorrow, just so you can see ahead of time, and we can kind of see where we are on this, scale that they've got. When you're looking at it, you come in and say, well, we kind of have an idea, but we don't, where Main Street is going to be. It's not, quote unquote, Main Street USA, where you've got, buildings on both sides of a street going down, and you've got a shop and a restaurant, and a shop and a restaurant. We have to be a little bit more creative in defining where and what our Main Street will be. But that's kind of step one. And then, as Dale had mentioned to us a couple different times when Main Street was brought up, they come in and they do an 85-point assessment of the area in which we're going to be in. Apparently, it's very, very time intensive, and the questions that they ask range from, what's already here, type of businesses, what kind of traffic is there. And luckily, we have a lot of that information, which was through the SLR presentation that was given. It's on the town website, going back to 23, but it shows some of the traffic studies that were there. Whether or not they're most up to date or not, it's a starting point. And then from there, once we get more engaged with this Main Street program, and they're going to be able to do this assessment on a yearly basis and see, have you improved on this? Have you met any of the goals that we've set out? And at that point, they're going to kind of develop a committee or a steering committee that will help guide these guys as they go forward. So it's exciting, but we just kind of have to get through this first step, find out exactly what they need, and then we can kind of proceed from there. But like I said, the workshop was very informative, and there were different representatives from different towns around, and everybody was in a different state. Some people are ready to go. They even get in as far as management teams of this Main Street. And once you get one, how do you do it? Like, who's going to maintain the planters? Who's going to put up decorations for holidays, things such as that? So obviously, well beyond where we are, but interesting to say, well, that's something that the town has to consider. So, interesting. Any questions on that?
Just one comment, really. It's really a long-term project.
It certainly is.
It's the whole concept of trying to get a downtown area established, I think Dale was saying it's a 5-year
So you
project.
mentioned 5 years, yeah.
You know, and that at some point in time, there's going to be critical mass where you start attracting investment capital.
And that's one of the things that they spoke about was, once you get to that point of having something established, who's gonna come in and kind of run it? Right?
Yeah.
And is it then, do you open up some type of a nonprofit that can run it, pull in that capital that you're talking
Ah.
about?
Interesting.
And
Okay.
if they're running it, they can report differently than a municipality would have to do. And they can also have different avenues for grant funds and things like that, that, again, a municipality may not be able to get because of their funding status.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. It was a couple hours long, in the middle of the day, but, you know, I was able to get there that day, so it was, I have to thank my boss for letting me there. Moving on, a couple other updates. The budget, of course, I sat in this chair and answered all their questions for the first time having to do so. I was a nervous wreck, but I think we did all right.
You did fine.
Our request, which included a very, very large increase from where the EDC has historically apparently ever been, was pretty well received, and it did get pushed through the Board of Selectmen. So we'll see what happens when the Board of Finance takes that up. Any questions on that budgeting?
No.
With that said, and I want to skip ahead, Sherry was going to try and get here, but she may have been tied up. The timeline for moving ahead quickly to number 10, I'll circle back. When we are able to get some type of approval of any funds, should that come, will then kind of lead us which way that we can possibly go with this. If we recall, when we had the consultants from Cooper Robertson in here a while back, they said, well, you know, you can look at this from a couple different avenues. One being kind of like a pop-up shop that we talked about, you know, a standalone type place where we're going in and looking into leases and subsidies and so forth, or, you know, there's some other options that can be looked at. So kind of just put a hold on that until we see what happens, and then Sherry's gonna, you know, kind of get moving on it a little bit more so we can get some more information
Okay.
that she has. On the TAC, we have at our first meeting of that I was involved with, it was actually the second meeting of the TAC, it was a 2-hour presentation that I sent everybody the PowerPoint that they sent to us. Some interesting things. We did a site walk, which had been postponed 2 different times due to weather. It was quick, but we walked around the clubhouse area, the maintenance facility. We walked to the highest point on the golf course, or the former golf course, and kind of looked around. They explained to us, over here it's not suitable for anything. Over here is farm, you know, ideal farmland. Over here is something else, and so on. Most folks didn't have the maps that they had sent out to us, but I did. And so I was asking, can you explain to us, you know, exactly where this portion of alternative B begins? And, you know, we kind of got a general idea, but nothing, you know, obviously nothing's been surveyed to that point. But it was interesting. There's another...
Is that open to townspeople as well?
It was, and there were a few folks that attended. They weren't able to, per se, question the folks that were leading us on the day, because it was considered a meeting of the TAC.
Okay.
Thank you for sending the PowerPoint around. Has it been on the web yet? And I don't see it under CCW at this point when you go into the website. So I don't know that everybody has that yet, but I found because I watched the presentation,
Mhm.
Yeah.
not only to the TAC, but it was time there was two presentations I watched,
Right.
and they were a little bit different, both to the Board of Selectmen and the TAC.
Mm-hmm.
But it never made the slideshow, was the exhibits, and I thought those exhibits were really good information and
Yeah.
data for a lot of the things we're doing around the town, and
Mm-hmm.
I found some really interesting stuff, but I haven't noticed it up on the website. So when we talk about Shadi, some of that stuff that's, people communicating and so forth, I think that data was very interesting. It was sort of some ACS and census data, whether it be the ACS portion of the census or the descending or whatever, every 10 years. But there was some parsing out that they did of that data within there that I thought was excellent for everybody in town to look at without making a judgment or saying what it was.
Right.
Everybody should look at it, I think.
Certainly something we can
Yeah.
look into.
I'm making a note.
Yeah, I don't know if they put it up, so I don't know if we should share it or not.
Yeah, so Karen Crosby is the Assistant Administrative Officer for the
Right.
town, and she is the staff person for that project. So I'll check with her in terms of whether it can go up at this point, or what, what the
Right,
committee plans.
Right, I don't know if it's fit for.
I could check with her on Monday. I'm out tomorrow, but.
Okay. On the 25th is another virtual working session with them. If anyone had an opportunity to see or listen to the Board of Selectmen meeting last night, they did have some discussion about some of the questions that they had posed. Those of us on the TAC were able to also offer some questions, and I'm hoping that on the 25th they will answer some of them that we were given, or that I actually posed. So kind of hurry up and wait on that and see where we go.
Is that another meeting during the day?
That's from 6 to 8 at night.
6 to 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Main Street meeting is during the day. It's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then from there, it's a 2 o'clock drive down to Amity Road and walk around and look at it. So they can kind of see where they're looking at, talking about. 2030, they're going to have a meeting. We just had that.
It's next week,
Next week.
Tuesday. Is that the 18th?
18th. So we'll see what they've got to come up with. Nothing more that I can say about that. Chad, do you have any more info from them?
No, I missed the last 2030. Are they always meeting in here? Do you know?
They do meet, yes. They'll be meeting in here.
I write down where they're meeting.
The one
And the
that
website's
I attended
posted.
on the 21st was online,
Mentioned.
so it was nice and easy to jump on. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do you recall offhand what time that meeting is on the 18th?
It's at, they meet at 6 PM, and the agenda is posted on the website if
Yeah,
you care
okay.
to look.
Okay.
The next thing we listed was EDC emails. This is something else that's been spoken about different commissions, committees, and boards in the town. Whereas for the purposes of FOIA and so forth, what they're looking for is just to kind of have a email address that is specific to our work at EDC. So Sherry already did one for herself. That's how she kind of started things off. Just because, of course, with if we were to discuss something as the Board of Selectmen are in the midst of people FOIA requesting different things, if we're using our professional or our personal emails, they would have access to all of this. So going forward, this is what they're asking us for.
Okay.
I set one up myself. It says clynchwwoodbridgeedc@gmail.com.
Okay.
And if everybody's comfortable with doing something like that,
What was your format? I'm sorry.
I have clynchwoodbridge spelled out EDC @gmail.com.
Do you recall if that's Sherry's as well? I wonder.
So we should be communicating with you at that email?
Mhm.
I think that would be best.
Yeah, so trying to think how to coordinate the switchovers. I guess just work on it.
If we,
Forward it to your new Gmail and then just say, please, just the transition of making
Yeah.
sure people use the new one, on the, you know, get the old one off. It's just a process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sherry's, she's got Sherry Fitzgerald, EDC@gmail.com.
Yeah, we should probably, when we do it, get with Tony, and then Tony can say, here are the, here are the
Well, I
emails
think
to
we sh-
use, or something.
Yeah, I think we should, maybe you all could think about what you would like. I
Mhm.
mean, so she
Yeah, I
was,
think- yeah.
Sherry, she had her whole name at
Right.
edc@gmail.com.
I mean, does it make sense to have a common convention for all of us?
Yeah.
I think so.
I agree.
So what do we want to do again? All, if we're all gonna get
Well,
on
we
the
already
same
have a
page?
discrepancy, right?
Right, we have discrepancy already.
Yeah, so we can change it to whatever,
I think whatever you all feel comfortable with. I think you should all choose what would work. for
Is
you.
there, I'll throw a monkey wrench into the thing, but is there a way to have the town establish emails for all of the committee people?
There's a cost for establishing emails.
that was part of the discussion that they had at Board of Selectmen. And, you know, I guess people had done the same. You know, they put in Cliff Lynch, BOS@gmail, or whatever the case may be. Who wanted one, who didn't want to, you know, at woodbridge.gov or .org or .com or whatever it is.
They actually had a vote on it.
They did.
For the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
It was
Because
that-
that's the surefire way of improving your FOIA-able responsibility, right?
Right.
Everything comes to woodbridge.org or whatever it's called.
And the FOIA person at the town takes care of it.
Yeah,
But it doesn't seem like that's going anywhere.
fair enough.
Okay.
Maybe recommendation, Cliff, if you send around to everybody your email address, just model hours after that.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Scott, what do you think?
I-
Yeah.
And we'll copy you on that.
Yes, and then should I assume then by the next go-round of communication to you all that I should send it to that, or do you want me to, for next month, send it to both? You know, I just want to make sure, I don't want you to miss a communication in case you didn't get a chance to put,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, because now it'll be, at least in my spot, like Allison, Mika, different things coming to
Yeah.
cliff@ivani.com. But to send email out, please, you know, use,
I could send them the updates,
yeah.
just any,
And then
And that
probably,
would also like get kicked to, or we'd have to probably reach out, for instance, to Greater New Haven Chamber, because that comes out to all of us through our emails that are of record, or Scribe, or,
yeah.
so it's, you know,
It's,
Okay,
it can, it can, it
and
can
then
be
just
done.
forward it if you get it to your old one. then
Yeah,
just
it can
forward
be
to
done.
the new
Yeah.
one, right? And
So
you-
I could do what I can do. When is the,
shall we say May 1st? Get everybody on board by May
Yeah.
1st.
yeah, that might give me a little more time, because this is a really busy month for
Mhm.
me. So let's do May 1, and then I will plan, in April to reach out to the chamber, give them all of your emails.
Okay.
And then, does anybody else in town, I know, Cliff, you are on, so it's like TAC, there would be a few different,
Right,
Mika, Allison, and we have a roster, so I'll update everybody's
Mm-hmm.
emails on, as of May 1. At our next what are we? At the next meeting, I'll verify that we're
Right.
still
Yeah,
on
that's
target for
April,
May
April
1.
10th.
Based on that, I can update our roster,
Okay.
and that does get communicated, you know, throughout the town.
okay.
So if there's anybody else who needs me to share their information with anybody in town, if you wouldn't mind. I mean, Allison will be given a go, because I'll send her the roster.
Sure.
But if there's anybody, just let me know at the next meeting.
Okay.
Or email me separately, and I'll just I'll make a list of
Okay.
sharing your information with those
And this
people.
is something that's more or less being communicated to all boards. and commissions,
Yeah,
correct?
Mika has suggested and I can't speak for other boards, because I just know,
Right.
you know, the boards that I staff, but, I believe that was what, you know, his request is that we kind of standardize that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything for new business? Good. Retail pop-up, nothing really more to report at this point on that one. And on to public comment. Any public comment? Anyone for public comment? Anyone for public comment? Okay. Our next meeting will be April 10th, 6 o'clock here in the town hall. With that, anything anyone else has?
Move to adjourn?
Okay, Rick?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.